I'm wondering if you've ever had any struggles with your kids questioning or struggling with their faith. Do you teach your children about other religions and love for all people? Feel free to skip this question if it's too personal. Hi guys, welcome back to another Ask Sarah video. I am in my big empty house that is about to go on the market, and it sounds really echoey in here because there's nothing on the walls and almost no furniture. And I really enjoy filming these Ask Sarah videos. I really enjoy reading your questions, your emails to me, and I enjoy reading your comments later. I will tell you one thing I actually don't enjoy, and that is trying to find time to film by myself in quiet. It is not easy because I'm a real life mom of a real life 11 children, and there's just so much going on in our lives right now, and I'm always with my kids, so I'm trying to find time to film. Last week I missed a video, and that's just how it will be once in a while. But I'm back today. Yeah, some kids are swimming at the pool when my older children are watching some younger ones, the baby's in bed, and I just was able to carve out a little bit of time to be in here, even though it's echoey. You know, you guys put up with a lot with me, with my sound issues and all that, so thank you. And today I'm gonna answer some of your questions. My first question comes from Allison, and Allison is my favorite viewer of the day because when I realized the first question I was gonna answer was a video, I got very excited.
Hi Sarah, my name is Allison and I'm recording this video from Melbourne, Australia. I just wanted to say how much I love your videos. I do have a question for you. For a long time, I have struggled in asking my children to help out with the housework. And I'm just wanting to know what a way is to overcome feeling bad about asking your children to pitch in. My son is 21 and still at home, and I still to this day feel bad about asking him to pitch in and do some household chores. So just wanting some advice on that one. Thanks.
I too have had those feelings of guilt when asking my children to do something. Why do we have those feelings sometimes? I actually think it comes from other people telling stories of children that were overused and used and abused in their households. And some of you might be able to relate to that, being used and abused in your household. And sometimes we can swing so far the other way that we're not asking our children to participate at all. But it is really important. I think you even know the way you ask the question. I'm pretty sure you know too that it is important to ask them. Not only are you not the only one living in your house and making it a mess, you know, using the kitchen, making dishes dirty, all of that. So you shouldn't be the only one cleaning it, because you're not the only one messing it up. But also, it really does prepare our kids. This is what I always think about anyway. It prepares my kids to have their own homes and run their own homes one day. I don't have a 21-year-old, but I do have a 19-year-old, and he's busy a lot. And so I can find myself, especially with my oldest, feeling a little bit the same way. I can understand that. My younger ones are home all the time, messing things up all the time. So to me, it's very obvious, like, you help make this mess, okay, we're gonna clean up together. And we have a certain zone system in our house where everyone just has a responsibility. And then we also come together and pick up the house all together, even parts that are not our responsibility solely. We work together outside, all of these things. But I can hear you with the older ones when they have their own life going. But when you think about it, they also, if they were just to go from doing absolutely nothing at mom's house and then move out, it's gonna be a real slap in the face when they're doing their own laundry and they're doing everything on their own with their busy lives. And so it is not wrong to ask them to help out, and it actually helps them with their transition years, so to speak. So I'm speaking to you and I'm speaking to me. I'm gonna ask you to do, actually he just ran a bunch of errands for us today. It's nice when kids also can do other things besides the dishes. Like, they have cars and they're running around town for you once in a while and things like that. So I encourage you just to put aside those negative thoughts that others have put in your mind and do what you know is right, and ask them to help out. Ask your kids to get involved. You can even ask them what they would like to do the most. Like, if you have a responsibility in this house, what would you want it to be? And get some of their feedback, because that might make you feel better about what they are involved in and in charge of. Some of these questions I am setting aside because next week, hopefully next week, I'm planning on filming with Solo, and some of them I've just set aside for filming with him, so that'll be fun. But Courtney asked, hey Sarah, do you think that your family will eventually add a pool to the new property even though there is a lake? I just wanted to say that I really enjoy watching your family's videos. I'm 14 and I'm a Christian. It's so encouraging to see other Christian families on YouTube. Have a great day, Courtney. Courtney, that's awesome. I'm glad you told me your age. I am always wondering, are there kids that watch your channel? Because I do yammer on a lot. I don't know if there are like teens that watch it. My teens don't enjoy me yammering on the video, but my kids do like to watch when the whole family is involved a lot, so it's fun to see a 14-year-old. We do plan to put a pool in. In fact, we're so spoiled from the pool. We love our pool. It's very hard to leave the pool and the piano, because the piano does not fit in our small house. We're not leaving it, but we can't use it for a year. But we've actually thought about putting in the pool first, because we're not doing it right next to our new house. So we're like, we've even talked to our builder, you know, if we did it down a little farther, would it be in your way? And he's like, well, if it's down farther, no, we could do that. We'll see. Right now, we're getting to enjoy it a lot. In fact, we're here while the kids are swimming. So because it takes a while to sell a house, and even once we have an offer, it'll take a little while. So we are getting to spend a lot of the summer with our pool, but we do love it, and we do plan to have a pool again. But we do also talk about getting our pond cleaned up a little more so that we could swim in that, and we'd like to get a small boat on it. I know you didn't ask all that, but there it is. Okay, next up is Jody, and Jody had a really good question. She said, first of all, I want to say how much I enjoy your channel, love you, your family, and your videos. I'm a 28-year-old Canadian who's not religious in any way, but there's just something I love about you guys that I love. Appreciate you being yourselves and sharing your faith with the world despite all the judgment that exists on the internet. Thank you for acknowledging that. We can't really share our lives without sharing our faith because it's so much a part of our lives. So feel free to skip this question if it's too personal. Just something I wondered about throughout the years watching you. I'm wondering if you've ever had any struggles with your kids questioning or struggling with their faith. And if so, how do you or would you navigate that? Again, I know people's relationship with God is personal, especially children, so sorry if I'm overstepping. All the love, Jody. You're absolutely not overstepping. That's a great question. We have not had kids question their faith as far as like, okay, they don't believe in God. But I think we've had different kids as they've come to their own faith. Like, it's not just doing what they're doing because we do it. But we've watched a number of our kids now just like step into their own faith. And through that process, some of them have questioned certain things, like what they believe. You know, we just handle it by having a lot of open conversations. Well, this is what I think. In fact, I have one with my son all the time, one of my sons all the time. That's like, okay, that he thinks differently than me about a number of things, and I'll tell him, okay, this is why I think that, and I'll tell him why I think that based on the Bible and, you know, everything I've read. And he loves theology, he digs deep, and sometimes he disagrees with me, but we love talking it all out. And in the process, I think my 3 older boys, they are all like so obsessed with just learning themselves, and that's how they've come to some of their own opinions that eventually, so far, they've all come around. Like, we encourage them to just do the research themselves, like dig in, figure it out themselves. And so far, they've all come to the point where, even though they know way more about theology than I do, honestly, way more, because they're very obsessed with reading about it. They read like thick books, they listen to all these podcasts, whatever. I don't, I mean, some of the words I'm like, okay, tell me what that word means. But they so far have like all come to the same conclusions that Solo and I have. So I think having an open dialogue, allowing them to ask questions, asking them questions, and having them do some of the research and digging themselves, encouraging them, because we are Bible believing, encouraging them to not just go by what we say, sorry, people keep texting me, but look in the Bible themselves and see what it says, because that's what will set them up for adulthood the best. I don't want them to believe every preacher they hear. I want them to know how to look in the Bible and see, is what he's saying correct? Do I agree with that? And does the Bible actually say that? Maggie asked, my question is, what do you do on road trips to keep your kids from fighting or being bored? I'm about to go on an 8-hour trip alone with my 2 children, Bonus points if it's free and cheap. Everything basically we do is free and cheap. So what I do is I definitely, in our family, we have certain kids that fight and argue more than others, so I separate the ones that argue a lot. And I try to find some activity book or something, but just like one per child that I take. I don't take too much stuff because I find that they don't use it a lot. So if there's something that they're really into, like drawing, maybe they can bring it if it's like very contained, but otherwise they'll just trash your car a lot. We do some snacks that we don't have at home, but we just drink water. We don't drink special drinks because otherwise we'd be stopping 1,000 times if we got the drinks that we don't normally get at home. We do stuff like that. We play whole car games. We listen to audiobooks all together. We do Adventures in Odyssey is a great like radio drama. It's Christian, but it is great for kids of many different ages that really keeps them engaged, everybody in the car engaged. We don't do electronics, like personal electronic devices, or we don't have TV screens anymore for our kids in the car. But when we did, we would save them for the very, very last resort. Another great idea is to drive at night when they're sleeping. So, but then if you're the only driver, that's probably not a very safe idea. And then we travel often with our kids, which makes them good travelers. Julie asked, when your house starts to be built, will you suggest to your older children that they pay attention to the build stages progress so they can become interested in trade skill, building skills, contracting, subcontracting, or home building, investing, etc. Maybe one of the contractors would let your children apprentice to learn a skill on the build of their own home. Could be incorporated as a project or report for homeschooling. Thanks, Julie. Julie, yes, I would love it if some of my kids were interested. None of them seem to be that interested in things like that, although Luka did tell me he wants to get a hands-on job, which I'm thankful about. Judah worked for a plumber in our church for a little while. He loved it. The skills he learned, it just made him so much more confident in fixing things around the house. I definitely would love my kids to learn anything. When our friend came over to help build the chicken coop, I had 1 or 2 kids with him as much as possible to learn as much as they can. So I'm all about that. I want them to learn all the skills. Hopefully some of them take like some of an interest in the building process. I guess I'm not gonna force it too much, but I love the idea of a homeschool project. I mean, that's pretty good. Okay, Cindy asked, I see a devoted mother and wife, what a devoted mother and wife you are in your videos. You are an inspiration to me. One thing I'm curious about is how you take care of yourself. Do you have a support system with other women, time for spiritual devotion, self-care? If you do, what do you do and how do you work it in? More on this, please. Thanks, Cindy. #strugglebusmom. Well, we've all been there. I talk a lot about a bunch of these things in my home management course, even this self-care topic. I dive deep into all of this stuff, even traveling with kids, all kinds of things in my home management course. But I will say, I think it's very important that we take care of ourselves in some manner. Like we can't just fill up other people's cup from empty ourselves. And for me, just having a little time alone, which didn't I talk about at the beginning of this video that I can't find time alone? At the end of the day is usually the time that I have just a little time by myself. It really helps me. I could just even sit down in front of the TV, something mindless, or put in a podcast. I need some time alone here and there. That really, really helps me. And that's been since my first one was born. We used to put our kids to bed very early. And like at 7, it was for a long, long time. Even after they were like in elementary school, young, we'd be like, you can read, but you need to be in your bed. And nowadays, that's not so easy, and especially in summer when it's light out later, but I still manage to find a little time by myself. I often will get up early to spend time with the Lord, like read. You ask for how I feel myself spiritually, or I will just walk out of the house. Now that we have our beautiful property, I just walk out of the house and I just go on a prayer walk, and that helps a lot too. Just having the little bits of time by myself is what does it for me, and I work it in by making sure I work it in, like the regular consistency of a little time at the end of the day. But as far as if things are just too much, see if one of my kids could just keep an eye on things while I take a little stroll outside for a second, go check on the ducks or walk down to the water for a minute, you know? It's just finding those little bits of time because yeah, it can be too much sometimes. I understand the struggle bus. Okay, Trudy sent an email, I'm laughing. You know what's missing from YouTube comments? Like, you can't put pictures up of yourself or videos in response. That would be funny. Trudy said, hi Sarah, you all mentioned how you herd your ducks. I tried to send a video of my son herding Daisy and Donald. Oh, but it wouldn't send, so I have pics. I am going to post these pictures because it made me laugh because Solo and Eli, they are always out there herding ducks the same way with their arms wide out. It's so funny. I love it. I love ducks. Who would have guessed? Okay, Joanne said, I love your channel and enjoy watching your children grow and how you run your household. Thanks, Joanne. Loving how you're moving to the farm and prepping. I always wondered why you're building a new house rather than an addition on the home you purchased. Is it because of the location of the farm? It seems like it would be less disruptive and less expensive to add a wing on the house and also not to have to move everything again. That's my question. Best, Joanne. Okay, Joanne, that's actually a really good question. We have asked ourselves that. People have asked us that many times. But the way the little house is laid out, it would be such a massive project to add to it because that kitchen is tiny. And that's like the biggest things we want out of a new house is just a lot of that living area, like a big kitchen, a really big dining area, and a really big living room, a big great room. So that was the most important thing on our list, and the small house does not have that. And to add on would actually be more disruptive because we couldn't live in the little house while we were doing it. It often takes longer than the custom build that we're gonna do, believe it or not. We didn't actually draw plans up for it, but a number of people, experts in our lives, said it's just gonna be just as expensive, if not more, to try to make that house what it is. The benefit of not doing that is that we have an extra house on our property, which is huge. We have a lot of children that could use the house sometimes. We have family that come from overseas, and when they come, like my mother-in-law, when she comes, she stays for 3 to 6 months every time in our house. And so to have like an extra guest house is actually something that we would really, really use. It's already booked out from a lot of our families. So I think we saw the benefit of having the second house there, as well as how the headache of adding on. There just was not enough in that house that we liked to add on to it, you know what I mean? There was nothing, everything was small because no more than 2 people have ever lived in that house, and we're 13 in there right now, and we keep having company. So I'm not sure the name of the person that wrote this, but first of all, I wanna say I'm happy to see other parents who restrict phones, TV stuff, etc. I always thought I was the only one who was this way, and I was wondering, do you get a lot of criticism for being that way, like not letting your kids have phones or be on the internet without supervision, etc.? Not really. Our kids went through, I mean, they would maybe think that they're the only ones, but they have a lot of homeschooled friends who are also have a lot of restrictions or have the non-internet phones that my kids do. We don't give our kids phones until they are out of the house a lot. So in our case, it's like 15 if they have jobs or 16 when they're driving. And then we have the last couple, now we've gone to non-internet phones. They actually don't have any internet at all. So there's a lot of side benefits that have come from that. Did I finish reading that question? I don't think I did. Let me just finish the question first. I raised my nephew as my own, and I restricted phones and internet without supervision, and no one ever said anything, but I know what they thought. Now they have grandkids on phones at 8, 9 years old, and letting them wear makeup and do many grown-up things that I always kept my nephew from. Like, he never had a phone with internet or anything until he was older. And like I said, I thought I was the only one who had seen how TV stuff and the internet can corrupt our children in ways people can't see, I guess. Anyway, I wish I knew families that like you guys when I was raising my nephew. There's so many great things about the internet, there's so many bad things. We want them to have the great without the bad, so as they are learning to navigate the internet with our supervision, we're also teaching them how to avoid the things that they don't need to be seen, and also learn to regulate themselves, because we all know the addictive nature of phones. Yesterday I did have one of those magical few minutes by myself. I was actually my work day, and I had a sitter that day, and I went to lunch, and it was wonderful. I had Chipotle, and I was standing in the Chipotle line, and every single person was on their phone. And that's just normal these days. our kids are all gonna have to learn how to self-regulate. I have to remind myself, put the phone down, let your brain just breathe for a while, you know? It's such a powerful force. And I want our kids, Solo and I, we both want our kids to like enjoy their childhood. We actually didn't have phones and internet as kids, and we got to just like see the real world. And that's what we don't want our kids to miss out on, that kind of childhood, that experience. Even as teenagers, it's so good for them to like, when they're bored, it's good for them to be bored because they get very creative. And when they're bored, it's good for them to go to books and stuff like that. And I wish I did it more even. So I have to regulate my own self, and they'll have to learn that as they become adults. But why not give them the childhood that they want? It has helped us to have friends in our lives that have the same philosophies. We don't have tons of friends. There are a lot of people in our lives that don't, and kids that are on it all the time. But we've also been able to watch that, the results of that, and it's not always good. Our older kids have now seen that in some of their friends that are just on the internet all the time, the things they fall into, the addictiveness that it is. And so now they've gotten to observe why we've made the decisions we've made. So I'm there with you. I guess you just wanted some reassurance maybe, and I understand that completely. So Teresa said, "Hi Sarah, I'm a Catholic. I am curious if you have any Catholic friends. I grew up in the Catholic religion, moved away from it and explored various other Christian churches, but returned to the Catholic Church. I have met and admired many Christian people who feel Catholics aren't Christians. What drew me to explore non-Catholic churches was the seemingly open arms and hospitality of the people. In some cases that changed upon hearing I was Catholic. It really surprised me and also hurt me. There are problems within the Catholic Church, but the fundamentals are rooted in Christ. Do you teach your children about other religions and love for all people?" Teresa. You know, we talk about our neighbors and best friends all the time in our backyard. They are a Catholic family, and they have 11 kids, and they're all like the same ages. We met them because he was Solo's eye doctor. He's now all of our eye doctor, and we just have a wonderful relationship with them. They're also homeschoolers. So through that relationship, we have actually come to know, I think Solo, he has studied all religions. He knows a lot about them, but I think the rest of us have all come to learn a whole lot about Catholicism, the differences between what we believe and what they believe. And it's been a wonderful experience. I know that our friends are Christians. I know we will see them in heaven one day. And through them, we've actually met many other Catholic families that are large families. And we have so much in common with them. So we tend to focus on more what we have in common than what we don't, because we do have so very much in common. And I do wish like the church as a whole would just be able to do that in general, like focus on what we have in common instead of our differences. I think it would make us as the church, the bride of Christ, stronger. And through persecution, that kind of thing happens. But we've seen that in other countries. But yeah, we know a lot of bishops now. They know our names. We actually know of, but don't really know, only 2 other families in our city that are like mega large like ours. But we know that are not Catholic, let me say. But we know so many Catholic families that are huge in our city, and they just take us under their wing. Like, they know we're pastors of a Spirit-filled church. They don't mind. It's so fun to be able to connect with other families. And that reminds me, I was going to say one more thing that my brain just like spaced out on. For the person who asked me about how I make time for myself or fill my own cup. One of the biggest ways is actually connecting with people that do the same thing or in the same life stage that we are. I think that has been so fulfilling and important for us to fill our own cups. Like when we finally met this other large family, I don't know if you could describe it like as a way to take care of yourself, but I think it is so important to have other people in your life that are like-minded. So we have our church full of believers that are very like-minded in so many ways. We all have these large families that we connect with that are very like-minded in many ways that we are. Last week I met with some YouTubers who all have large families, and we're all moms juggling our large families and homeschooling and our YouTube channels. And those kind of things fill my cup so much. Connecting with people that are doing things or thinking things the same way that we are, it's huge, it's vital. Just like the lady who asked about raising her nephew, she wishes she had other families that thought that way in her life when she was raising her nephew. I totally understand. And like searching for your people or your community, we have several different groups that understand different parts of our lives. But it is so extremely helpful, so vital. And even as we're moving away from our friends here, we're not moving away from friendships. And I think that's just so important, and it's not something that just came really easily early on for us. It's something that has to be intentional. Invite people over for dinner, like get to know people, pray for those kind of relationships. I remember when we were at our last house 7 years ago, I was just praying. There was a house up the street and I was like, Lord, please let someone with a big family move in there, because I knew I needed to connect with somebody else. Everybody else in my life had like 4 kids was the most, and we were expecting our 8th. And I didn't realize that the Lord was gonna move us to someone else who had a large family, but it has helped so much. Just those moments you think you're crazy or it's just too hard or what am I doing wrong, to have other people that are doing the same thing you are, to be able to connect with them, and you realize, okay, I'm not crazy, you know, you're experiencing this too, this is normal, we help each other. I mean, it's so, you can't see my hands, they're down here, but I'm talking with my hands. It's just so important. I hope I didn't make a bad sign. The internet always tells me when I do things wrong, so I'm sure they'll tell me. We can still say okay, right? Probably not. Okay guys, I better stop. I'm rambling on. I hope you guys enjoyed today's questions. I got so many in here, but if you haven't asked your question and you don't mind waiting a little bit, please send it to asksarah@ourtribeofmany.com and I will answer it, or I will save it for the pile that I'm gonna answer with Solo. Thank you guys for listening today. What do we have coming up this week? Oh, I give you a house tour of this big empty house. That's one thing that's coming up this week that I remember right now. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.